Maya Carter was humiliated in plain sight. Dismissed like an afterthought, spoken to like a problem, until the man she married, a retired federal judge, stepped through the terminal doors and shifted the air. Maya didn't have time to slow down. Not that morning. She was running on fumes, 3 weeks of non-stop travel. Policy sessions in Sacramento, community talks in San Antonio, a last-minute town hall in Tulsa. Her carry-on hadn't seen a closet in days. But today wasn't about work. Today was personal. She arrived at Dallas Love Field just after 6:30 a.m. Her cousin Devin had passed. Only 42. Liver failure. They'd grown up like siblings. Missing the funeral wasn't an option. Not for anything. Not even exhaustion. In a simple black dress under her blazer, Maya moved briskly through the terminal. Coffee in one hand, phone in the other, scrolling through flagged emails from her assistant as she headed for the Southwest check-in counter. Her flight to Jackson, Mississippi was set to board at 7:10. The first red flag was a glance. Not long enough to accuse. Just long enough to sting. The young man behind the counter looked up, looked back down, then smirked. Slight, but familiar. She knew that smirk. She handed over her boarding pass and government ID. "I'm on flight 2376 to Jackson. I'd like to check this bag," the agent typed, then frowned. "You're not in the system." She stayed calm. "That's not possible. I checked in an hour ago." "Here." She passed him her phone. "Boarding pass is right there." He scanned the screen, then looked up. "Well, looks like your seat's been reassigned. You'll need to wait." "Reassigned to what?" He didn't answer, just leaned back and waved to someone behind him. "Hey, can you take a look at this?" 6:43. Maya checked the clock. Her pulse started to rise, but her voice stayed steady. "I'm sorry. What's the issue?" "I have a funeral to get to." Another employee walked over. Didn't even glance at her. "She's flagged for random review," the woman said. "We'll need to verify credentials." Maya blinked. "Excuse me? It's standard. Number." "It's not. I've flown this route 4 times this year. That's never happened." The first agent stepped in. "Ma'am, if you don't calm down, I'll have to ask you to step aside." Maya's brow lifted. "Calm down? I asked a question. That's enough. Over there, please." Voices stirred behind her. Passengers watching. Phones appearing. Someone whispered, "That's Congresswoman Carter." Didn't matter. Maya stepped aside. Jaw set tight. She pulled out her federal ID. "I'm not hiding anything. I'm on official travel." The badge got a glance. Nothing more. "ID doesn't override procedure," the woman said flatly. A cold weight settled in Maya's stomach. This wasn't random. This was deliberate. Still, her voice stayed composed. "I'll comply. But I'd like to speak with a supervisor." The first agent tilted his head and called out, "Security." But Maya hadn't raised her voice. Hadn't broken a single rule. And now, she was being treated like a threat. She stood at the end of the counter, arms folded. Her eyes found a stain in the carpet beneath her heels. Stillness. Not surrender. She refused to flinch. People behind her kept watching. Some whispering. Others filming behind lifted phones. A woman caught her gaze and mouthed, "I'm sorry." Maya nodded once. She appreciated it. But sympathy wasn't going to undo this. 2 TSA officers approached. Not hurried, not relaxed. That cautious, calculated walk. The kind they only used when they'd already decided what they were going to see. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," one of them said. "For what exactly?" Maya asked, still and composed. Her voice was firm, never raised. "Routine check. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." Maya extended her ID and boarding pass again, slowly, steadily. "I've already been cleared," she said. "This is an official government trip. That badge is legitimate. The problem isn't me. It's the one you're choosing to create." The officer didn't glance at the badge, didn't ask another question. "Ma'am," he repeated, "we're not requesting." There it was. The quiet threat under the calm tone. Maya turned toward the gate screen. Flight 2376. Still listed as on time. Boarding began in 10 minutes. Her mother would already be in Jackson, texting her which pew to sit in. And Devin's little girl. She'd asked if Auntie Maya would say something at the service. Maya took a breath, held it, exhaled, then walked with them. They led her away from the gate crowd. Down a side corridor, past a gray door most passengers never noticed. The hallway buzzed faintly with overhead fluorescence. Cold. Empty. A third agent approached from the far end, whispering something too low to hear. The others nodded, then turned back toward Maya. "We'll be doing a full pat-down," one said, "and screening your belongings. No warrant, no cause, no explanation." Her voice was low, steady. "You're stepping over a line you're not trained to cross. You can file a complaint later," the agent replied flatly. Maya didn't argue. She lifted her arms. They searched her. Impersonal, cold, clinical. Her bag was emptied, toiletries laid out, documents shuffled, no explanation offered. 10 minutes passed, then 15. She finally broke the silence. "Can someone please tell me why my seat was reassigned? Why I was pulled?" One officer looked up briefly. "Ma'am, I don't handle seating. That's airline. We were called because you were being difficult." "Difficult?" Her voice cracked, only slightly. "I asked a question. I didn't yell. I followed every single instruction." He shrugged. "We go by what's reported." Maya glanced at her watch. 7:16. Her flight was gone. She didn't speak, didn't move. She sat slowly on the metal chair against the wall, hands on her knees, eyes ahead. Still, but not small. She wasn't just missing a flight. She was missing a funeral. She was missing her promise. And she was being punished, clearly, deliberately, for nothing. One officer stepped outside to make a call. The other leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes avoiding hers. Maya took out her phone. One message. Short. "I was pulled. Missed the flight. I need you here." She hit send, then waited. The next person who would walk through those doors wouldn't ask questions like she had. He wouldn't have to. Franklin West had never needed volume to be heard. He walked with gravity. Always had. 30 years on the bench had taught him how power moves. Quietly, and with precision. But when Maya texted him those 3 words, "I need you," something inside him shifted. He was already in the car, not far. She'd told him not to come inside. Said it was a quick trip. No big deal. But if she said need, she meant now. Back inside, Maya sat alone. The TSA officers had moved a few feet away, murmuring to each other like children caught mid-lie. Her bag sat half-zipped, papers shoved back without care. She had repacked everything herself, under their watch. Her blazer now wrinkled. Hair once pinned up was unraveling into soft, disheveled curls. Outwardly, she looked composed. Inside, something was smoldering. The airline agent from earlier leaned against a nearby wall, arms crossed, eyes down, waiting for the moment to pass. The one who'd called security had disappeared entirely. At exactly 7:36, the automatic doors hissed open. Franklin entered. Dark gray coat, black slacks, a maroon scarf Maya had gifted him last Christmas. His walk was deliberate, his eyes sharp. Maya stood the second she saw him. She didn't have to speak. She didn't need to. Franklin took in the scene around him. TSA officers, airline agents, her half-open bag, scattered documents, the air of damage already done. Then he turned to his wife. "You all right?" She nodded. Just once. He turned to the nearest TSA officer. "Who's in charge here?" The man hesitated. "Sir, may I ask who you are?" "I'm Franklin West, retired federal judge, 9th Circuit." He didn't blink. "Now, who's in charge?" The officer stalled, caught between surprise and protocol. Just a moment." Franklin looked back at Maya. "What happened?" "I asked why my seat was changed," she said calmly. "They said I was being difficult. I showed credentials. They ignored them. Then I missed my flight." "Did you raise your voice?" "No." "Cause a scene?" "No." The officer returned, now trailed by a supervisor in a navy vest, holding a walkie-talkie and trying to look composed. "Judge West," the man started, offering a half handshake. "We weren't aware." Franklin didn't take the hand. "Why was her seat reassigned?" "We'd need to speak with the gate team." "Then speak," Franklin replied. The supervisor nodded and turned away quickly. Franklin turned his attention to the check-in desk, to the young man who had initiated it all. "You. Why did you call security?" She wouldn't comply," the agent said. "She asked about her seat change?" "Yes, but..." "She wouldn't move aside." "Did she yell?" "No." "Threaten anyone?" "No." Franklin stepped in slightly. His voice never rose, but it cut like glass. "Then you understand this was targeted escalation. You ignored identification from a federal official. You triggered a security response with no probable cause, and in doing so, you detained her, without justification." The agent swallowed. "I didn't know who she was." Franklin didn't flinch. "You shouldn't have to." Silence dropped like weight across the hallway. A woman passing by paused, took out her phone again. Whispers followed. So did more eyes. Another airline agent arrived, one who had missed the earlier scene. He caught sight of the badge, the posture, the silence. He whispered something to the supervisor. Suddenly, the apologies began. "Ma'am, we sincerely regret." "She doesn't need regret," Franklin cut in. "She needed respect. 20 minutes ago." The supervisor stumbled. "We'd like to rebook her. First class. Next flight out." Maya shook her head slowly. "He's not trying to upgrade me," she said, voice steady. "He's trying to remind you, you don't get to treat people like this. Not me, not anyone." But by now, the moment they should have cared about had already slipped past. Franklin never raised his voice. He didn't have to. His tone was exact, measured, heavy. It settled over the space like quiet thunder, soft, but undeniable. Moments later, the gate manager arrived, clipboard in hand, breath short, already in full damage control. His eyes flicked from TSA to airline staff to the couple standing like they belonged to stone. "Judge West, Congresswoman—" "Spare it," Franklin said. "We're not here for introductions. I want a name." The man blinked. "Excuse me?" "The name of the person who made the call, who decided my wife was a problem for asking a question about her seat. That's a personnel matter." Franklin stepped forward, just slightly. "So is discrimination." He didn't shout. He didn't need to. The manager glanced at Maya, then back to Franklin. He shifted uncomfortably. "I understand the seriousness of this situation. You're not responding. You're reacting," Franklin interrupted. "You're covering yourselves." In the background, the TSA officers had gone still. The young agent who'd dismissed Maya earlier, nowhere to be seen, vanished, likely hiding behind a terminal pillar. Maya hadn't said a word, arms crossed softly. Her silence was precise. She was watching now, and she wasn't going to help them soften what was coming. Franklin spoke again, colder this time. "You allowed your team to turn a non-event into a security incident. You ignored credentials issued at the federal level. You detained a sitting congresswoman," Franklin said, voice like ice. "Blocked her from boarding. Without cause. Because someone didn't like being asked a question." The gate manager blinked, throat dry. I'll notify my regional lead." "No, you'll do more than that." Franklin didn't move, but his presence expanded. "There will be a full inquiry." Judicial and federal. Maya spoke now, her voice quiet but sharp enough to cut through stone. "Don't start fixing this just because he showed up. You should have started the moment you pulled me aside." For a beat, the terminal fell still. Far off, another gate called for boarding. But here, everything paused. Franklin glanced at his watch. "You made her miss a funeral. That can't be undone. But what you will do is offer a public apology, not just to her, but to every passenger you've done this to and pretended it was protocol." The manager opened his mouth, hesitated, then closed it. Maya met his eyes directly. "And don't try to spin this. Don't call it confusion. This was judgment. Plain, unfiltered, and wrong." By now, more people had gathered. A man near the security ropes stood watching, arms folded. A woman near the information desk leaned toward her husband, whispering. Near a charger station, a young adult tapped away furiously on their phone. The story was already leaving the airport. Maya adjusted the strap on her shoulder, turned to Franklin. "Let's go." "You sure?" "Yeah," she said. "There's nothing left here worth listening to." They moved toward the exit. No guards, no escorts, no PR agents running behind with weak smiles, no voucher, no upgrade, no explanation, only silence. And behind them, a slow, rising wave of regret from people who'd shown none when it would have mattered. What came next would be louder than anything said inside that building. By the time they reached the parking lot, Maya's phone was already lighting up. Calls missed, messages waiting. She didn't check them yet. Her hand tightened on the suitcase handle, but she didn't move toward the car. She needed air, not oxygen. Distance. Room to burn off the fire curling behind her ribs. Franklin stood beside her, silent, steady, still watching the terminal doors like they owed him something. "They didn't think I'd come," he said. "They didn't think anyone would," Maya answered. "You all right?" She nodded. Not the kind that says yes. The kind that says I will be. Inside, the ripple had already begun. One video showed Maya leaving the gate, head high, flanked by agents who wouldn't meet her eyes. Another caught Franklin demanding names. The footage spread faster than any backpedal could. In a break room behind the airline counter, the young gate agent sat hunched over. Name tag read Cullen. Fingers locked together. Eyes on the floor. The manager stood in the doorway. "You could have moved her to a different seat," he said quietly. "That's all she asked." "I didn't know who she was," Cullen muttered. "You shouldn't have to. You don't treat people like that. Ever. She was difficult. She asked a question," the manager replied. "That's not a threat." Cullen said nothing. Didn't need to. The weight had arrived. Not just guilt, but visibility. That the woman he smirked at carried power he never saw coming, because she never needed to announce it. Now the world had seen it too. Outside, Franklin leaned against the back of the car. Maya stood by the trunk, finally checking her phone. A message from DC. "Press has the video. It's circulating fast. One from her aunt in Jackson. He'd be proud of you, Jazz. Don't let them shrink your voice." Maya exhaled. "They'll try to twist this," she said. "They can try," Franklin replied. "But it's already out there. I just wanted to attend a funeral." "I know." She looked up at him. "Did I handle it right?" He tilted his head. "You didn't give them what they were baiting you for. That's more than most people could have done. And this," she said almost to herself, "was never just about being right. This wasn't just about being right. It was about being human." And watching that humanity get ignored like it meant nothing. Inside the terminal, the airline's regional supervisor had arrived. Statements were being collected. Damage control teams were already spinning phrases that sounded sincere, without ever taking responsibility. That familiar dance. Regret without accountability. But this time, something was different. This moment wasn't fading, because it wasn't just about Maya. People watching saw their mothers in her stillness, their sisters in her silence, their wives in her restraint. They recognized the look, the one that says, "You don't belong here," even when everything in your hand says you do. And they were angry. The apologies came, first in private, then posted online. Hours later, the airline released a brief statement. "We regret the incident involving Congresswoman Maya Carter. We are reviewing our procedures to ensure respect and professionalism for all travelers." No names, no real ownership. But it didn't matter, because dignity shouldn't depend on status, and respect shouldn't be reserved for select passengers. But the story wasn't done. Not for those who lived it, and not for those who recognized themselves in it. That night, Maya sat on the edge of a hotel bed in Jackson. A plate of untouched room service sat cooling beside her. Franklin was downstairs, making calls. The memorial had ended. Her family had sent photos. They tried not to sound disappointed, but Maya could feel it in the gaps between their words. In the silence after. "We missed you." She scrolled through headlines on her phone. Congresswoman removed from gate after dispute. TSA under fire for detaining federal official without cause. Viral footage sparks backlash over airline incident. She didn't want to read them. She'd lived it. She didn't need the media's version. But what caught her breath were the comments. Not just the outrage, but the recognition. People were writing in. Nurses, teachers, veterans, elders. Story after story about being pulled aside, spoken down to, looked through. A woman from Arizona shared, "I didn't have a title. They spoke to me like I was nothing. I didn't argue. I just cried in the bathroom." A man from Oakland wrote, "They treated her the way they treated my father. He missed his heart surgery. No one even said sorry." Maya felt something clench inside her chest. This wasn't just about what happened at Gate 22B. It was about what happens everywhere. Quietly. Constantly. And how used to it people had become. Franklin returned a few minutes later. Set his phone down. "You're everywhere," he said. "I know." He watched her for a moment. "Want to talk about it?" She shook her head. "Not yet." He sat beside her. "You did everything right," he said. "Even when they didn't." Maya turned toward the window. The city outside was hushed. Streetlights humming. Cars sliding past one another in slow rhythm. "They treated me like I wasn't real," she said softly. "Like I didn't belong. Even after I showed them exactly who I was." Franklin nodded. "You think they'll learn from it?" "I don't know," she said. "But maybe someone else will. Because that's the thing about moments like these. They stick. Not always for the ones who caused them, but for the ones who endured them. And for those quietly watching, quietly remembering. This has happened to me, too." Later that week, Maya returned to DC. She turned down the morning show interviews. She didn't want to be turned into a headline. She wanted a real conversation, not a media circus. Instead, she wrote a letter. It was published in multiple papers. This isn't about a single gate or one airline. It's about how fast people forget the rules of basic decency, about how quickly a voice is dismissed when it's not wrapped in wealth or rank or recognition, and how dignity isn't something earned through power, it's something that should come standard. That closing line spread faster than the incident itself. Eventually, the airline issued a longer apology, this time using her name. But by then, the public had already rewritten the story. Maya Carter wasn't just a congresswoman. She had become a symbol for every person ignored, dismissed, or silenced just because someone didn't recognize their worth. And she never yelled. She never pushed. She just stood still and let the world finally see what that kind of strength really looks like. It was never just about a seat. It was about what happens when someone who deserves better gets treated like they don't matter. But the final message didn't belong to Maya alone. It belonged to everyone who'd ever stood silent, waiting for someone to say what they couldn't. A week later, Maya sat alone on a bench outside Union Station in D.C. She'd just wrapped a meeting with a group of interns working on civil rights initiatives. They didn't ask about committees or votes. They asked about the airport. One of them, a 19-year-old from Kansas named Talia, looked down and said, "I saw the video. That's happened to me. I didn't know what to do. You didn't say much, but you made it loud." That stayed with Maya, because sometimes the moment doesn't need volume. It needs stillness. A kind of stillness that forces the world to face itself. She thought back to the gate agent's face, the one Franklin had looked straight through when he asked for a name. There hadn't been shouting, just silence, and the weight of being seen for what it really was. It wasn't a passenger he disrespected. It was a person, and he wasn't prepared for that truth. Later that night, Maya remembered what Franklin told her when they got back to their home in Fort Worth. Most people think power lives in a badge or a title, but real power is knowing who you are, and not letting anyone take that from you, even when they try. That had always been the lesson, not just for the airline, for everyone watching. Because this story wasn't rare. It was just the one that happened to be caught on camera. And this time the person had a name and a platform and a voice they couldn't push aside. But what about the woman trying to reach her daughter's graduation? The man flying across the country for a job interview? The grandmother headed home to bury her brother? What happens when they're dismissed? Franklin was right. It should never take a title to be treated like a human being. Maya leaned back on the bench, watched people rush past, coffee cups in hand, earbuds in, heads down, everyone trying to get somewhere, everyone hoping nothing about who they are stops them from arriving. She unlocked her phone and drafted one final message to her staff. Next town hall, we open with a story, not about policy, about people, about what happened at Gate 22B. Because stories matter, not for the drama, but because they make us ask, what would I have done if it were me, or worse, if I had been the one in power? The lesson wasn't shame, it was awareness. The kind that reminds us, dignity is not a gift, it's a right. So to anyone who's ever been talked over, brushed off, pushed to the side, to anyone who's ever had to prove they belong in a place they already paid to be, to anyone who's ever held back their words because they feared their tone would become the problem, your story matters. And even if no one records it, someone will speak it one day. Maybe loudly, maybe with nothing but silence. The next time you're standing at a counter, or sitting behind one, look up, see people. Don't assume, don't forget. Because how we treat each other, when no one's watching, says everything about who we are when everyone is.